All right, sweet. Hello, everybody on YouTube. I'm Chloe Cox, Superstar Director for Anchored Sense. This is Justin Cox. He is
better half.
My better half. It took me a long time to really, just kidding, feel that way. But it goes into our topic with what we really need to talk about, because I think it's definitely something that in advanced leadership is not talked about enough. And I think it's the reason why a lot of leaders burn out, because their husband, significant other, wife is not on board. So let's get started.
Let's go.
So I wanted to really just get into why we decided to do this. So I have been selling Scentsy since 2012.
Yep. Right before we got married.
Yeah, November 2012, I started selling Scentsy.
After we got married.
Yeah.
It was after.
So this is how my Scentsy journey started with my husband. We lived in a duplex. We knew nobody in the town that we lived in, because after we did this thing called church, all of our friends decided to peace out on us when we started following Jesus, which was fine. We got a lot of awesome friends, but that meant that we really had to build this business like from the ground up. And when I tell you that we live in kind of a small town, we kind of do. Like most people in the town that we live in, it's a big town, but people are, I don't know.
It's a college town, so people come and people go. Yeah,
and college town, meaning that whenever we really built this business, I had no idea, like, okay, let me do unlimited home parties. Let me do all this stuff. And what that kind of did for our marriage was, I mean, it really put a big strain on it, considering, so we sell Scentsy. I know I said that in the beginning, but just in case you're in another direct sales company, hopefully this can help you as well. But let's start with the bullets. So number one, let's talk about just consistency and how we got off track, I guess, whenever I was selling Scentsy in the first. So I promoted to director in 1 year. So it was very
very fast paced. So one thing that I can say was I bought her kit to get her started because I wanted the additional revenue stream that we could have in our family, which she wanted a new car. And in order to make the car payment, I told her she was going to have to bring in the cash to do that. And I found something to help her do that. That's actually pretty easy because it sells itself, which was Scentsy. However, when we first started, I kind of just gave it to her and let her run with it and really didn't help out at all. And then it got to a point about 6 months into it where we really weren't talking that much because she was
literally not talking at all. It was really bad.
She was working as a nurse, then doing this, and it can consume your time. Plus, it's addicting too, because once you see the amount of work you put into it and the amount of money you can make, you want to keep working at it. So it's one of those things where you have to get a consistent schedule set up for the business early on and set that foundation, so that way once it starts to grow and your team starts to get bigger, your customer base gets busier or you gets bigger, you're able to actually hone in on everything and make it to where you're running your business pretty effectively. And I always say do it early on, because once you get to a point where you're a director like we were at, it's kind of difficult because you already got people used to the way you were working with them, and then you got to go back and retrain. And
well, and honestly, I'm just going to be real. I think there's some superstar directors out there that their husbands aren't on the same page as them. And I don't want you guys to be superstar directors or certified consultants, wherever you're at in your Scentsy journey. I don't want you to think, oh, it'll get better when I'm a director. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to really just be tuned into like what's going on in your home, how you're running your business. So with consistency, things that I definitely was not doing in the beginning. I had no business hours. So if you're that person and you're like, oh, but I need to do it after a 12-hour shift. No, you don't.
Yeah,
that's not what you need to do. So when I would work my 12-hour shifts as a nurse, I would literally walk in my door at 8:45 on the phone.
But you would also be like, as soon as you get off your shift, talking to people too on the way to your car and then get off.
So in saying business hours, like I would be like, oh, this is great. I'll get in my car and I will talk on the way home. Well, what good is that when you don't set a time frame for the person you're talking with? Because I'm going to be really serious. I love my team. I love my group. But if I don't set a time limit with them on anything, I will drown quickly. And so will you. And I think that in this business, we feel like we owe our team members and, you know, all these people in our organization everything we have. And I'm going to be honest, you don't. Because what happens, and what I noticed with Justin, is that when I gave everything I had to my team, I literally was paying him no attention. And I mean, that's like a recipe for a divorce.
Yeah, my love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, so if you haven't read the 5 love languages, this may be off topic, but it's fine.
No, it's not. It helps you get better together because you understand love language.
That was really helpful because like my love language is acts of service. So when someone does something for me, I'm like, you're my best friend. But
literally.
Justin's love language is not acts of service, it's physical touch. So
And
there's that.
affirmation.
I hate physical touch, but I had to come to the fact of like, okay, if I like feel his love language, he will feel mine. So that may be a little in depth, but I think some of you guys are searching for answers that you already know you need to fix. Cincy is not something, or any company or any business you do shouldn't be a way to escape from your spouse. I'm just going to throw that out there, because I think that when I was going through a difficult time with Justin, honestly, the first 3 years of my business, I promoted very quickly to superstar director in 3 years, and that was with another job. And the reason I say that is because sometimes when you move really quick in life, you miss these little details that really can shape and mold your business. So when I became a superstar director, I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea like where to even start. And I kept doing all these programs, and Justin was like, hang on a minute, like, let's focus on doing a lot less things, but only doing a few things really well. So you want to say anything about that? Like what we kind of do now?
Yes.
Even like how we're working right now?
So pretty much as far as you've got to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. And most of the time, some of your weaknesses, your spouse may actually have as a strength. So that's how we work our business.
And
she's really good, and communication also. And so Chloe is obviously very good at training, talking with all of her customers, her follow-ups. That's what she loves to do. She's great at doing them, and she's good at making sure she's communicating with home office on any updates, staying up to date with the news.
Well, does your husband know any of that? Like what he's saying? He couldn't have told you anything about my business 2 years ago. That's a fact. So
yeah,
you need to involve your husband too.
And just let him know what you're good at doing, because what she's not good at doing, I am, like keeping up with the bank account for the business, keeping up with all the bills,
well, and some
keeping
of that
up with the numbers,
crazy.
keeping up with the numbers, keeping up with making sure we're taking stuff to the post office, keeping up with how much we're spending at the post office, keeping up with how much we're spending and putting back into our business. So I'm more of the business like manager as far as from a financial accounting and making sure I'm getting the mail outs out in a consistent time frame. That way she can focus on what she's good at, which is actually the money maker in Cincy, which is focusing on her team, making sure they have everything they need to grow, and actually making sure she has product knowledge and the business knowledge that Cincy is sending out. And sometimes I can help out with that too if there's something she doesn't understand that Cincy's releasing. Like with the Cincy and Disney that they're doing and the compliance around it, you know, I was able to understand why it's that way because of through my previous job, there was some trademark intellectual property stuff I had to go through. So I was able to explain that to her and her team to where they could understand it in a way that they can, because some people may have never heard what intellectual property is. So me being able to say that to them actually, you know, helped out a lot. But yeah, and that's just kind of understand. So the first tip I'll get is just making sure you understand the strengths and weaknesses that you guys have and can bring to the table.
Yeah, like
some husbands may not be technological savvy or bank account and know how to do that. So that may be something you guys do together once a week.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So there's like a lot I can say based off what he said, but I want y'all to understand something. We are not perfect. We just moved into this home we're in right now 2 weeks ago, and our life has been crazy. However, you cannot let that like divide your business and your communication. So the biggest problem me and him had was honestly communicating. I would get home and be super tired from work, right? Is there any of y'all out there like that? Like you're exhausted and you're like, crap, I got to feed my kid and give them a bath. And then I also got to like train these people. And so I really had to stop, like, I don't know, I had to stop wasting time on things, honestly, that weren't necessary.
And they weren't income producing.
They're not income producing.
And some things you have to do that are not going to be income producing
right
away. But once you get it started up, then you'll start figuring out in this business. And the hard part that I can see from Chloe's perspective and a lot of other people that are doing Cincy is there's a difference between business and friendships, and you got to learn how to flip that switch because it can consume you. If you're talking about business with Cincy, that's fine. That's what it needs to be about. But then when it starts to get into some personal stuff and everything like that, like you got to learn how to flip that switch. And
that's definitely been the hardest part for me is separating.
But that's a great thing also. Yeah, but that's a great thing also about Cincy is we've got some of our best friends ever now because of Cincy. And so you create a family with it too. So it's all about, I always tell all of our team members, iron sharpens iron, you know, about rubbing off on each other and making each other better and not bringing each other down. Yeah. And that's the one thing I noticed very early on. you know, Chloe would try to save, and some of the people don't sell Sense anymore, but she'd be so focused on the negative ones that some of the ones that were actually doing very well kind of flew under the radar for a little bit. And I was actually able to identify them and just kind of help try to navigate that just with some of my experience in managing people.
Yeah. So definitely another tip, if you were that person and you're letting your team like completely suck the life out of you, then you definitely need to reevaluate, because what's going to happen is you're going to be pissed off when you get home or whatever, and then you're going to scream at your husband. I did that a lot. I still do that.
Yeah.
We're work in progress.
I always tell a lot of the husbands on here, be prepared to be a punching bag sometimes.
No.
So it's okay.
It's okay. I'm the biggest honey badger out there, so I'm sure nobody's going to top what I put him through. But we wanted to do this YouTube video to really help you guys understand, especially spouses, that there's no secret to someone being better. Like, when I was hearing him talk, I'm going to be honest, I was thinking some of these women are going to listen to this and they're going to laugh, because their husband doesn't even know what PRV is, because their husband has no idea what a mail out is. So you know what you need to do? Start involving him and tell him. So what we did at our old house, we don't have to do it anymore because we're kind of like good to go now. But I got a $7 like magnetic dry erase board and put it on our fridge. And I literally would just write stuff that he could do. So I talked to him, because he would be like, Chloe, you need to tell me what you want.
Well, it was for a while there, you just wanted me to figure it out myself and just do what to do it, but I never didn't know what to do. And sometimes I would do something, I would do it wrong or mail it to the wrong place. I'm like, well, you got to tell me. So that's another thing too. Don't assume that they know what you need help with just because they're your spouse and they should be able to telekinetically read your mind. That just doesn't happen that way. I wish it did sometimes, but it doesn't. So that was a big thing for us, is for her just communicating, telling me exactly what she needs. That way we can get in a rhythm.
Yeah, so like, for example, once we started business hours, so this is what I mean by business hours. So my business hours are from 8 to 3. They're from 8 to 3, Monday through Friday. Now, I do Scentsy full time. Well, I've done it. Let me just say this too. You've got to quit saying that you aren't doing Scentsy full time because you have another job. There are plenty of you guys out there that are doing Scentsy full time and you have another job. So quit acting like you're not doing it full time and hurting your business by not setting business hours. Like, you own a business, so why are we not setting business hours, right? Like, it seems like that should be the first thing that you would do, right? Kind of crazy. However, what we learned is that you're never going to be taught that through Scentsy. You're just not, and that's fine. But when it comes to staying married, we had to get business hours in place. So if you're working a full-time job, maybe your business hours are on the way to work from 7 to 7:30. You could schedule a call. That sounds crazy, but I did it all the time. Or you could send your voice text out then, or however it may been, however you're following up with your customers. And then on the way home, and then maybe for 3 hours on a Saturday or 4 hours. Now, you're going to have to work, but I definitely think like the time in the business hours were one of the biggest things that we added to the list. That was the easiest. That really helped us. It was like, okay. And guys, at night, there's zero reason that you should be texting your team members at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I think it's absolutely crazy.
I put into place too early on the 24-hour rule. Like, if it's something that they could find on the workstation, any of your team members, or they can find on a Facebook page that's been posted before, give them 24 hours before you respond. Now, if it's something that's an emergency, which I really don't know what it could be, maybe an issue with a customer and they don't know what's going on and need a little bit of help, that's a different story. But if it's something that can usually be found on the workstation.
Yeah, we're talking about all team stuff. Your customers are a different story.
Yeah, customers are a different story.
They get more attention. Like, I mean, literally next to me, you should see all the stuff I have that I'm about to mail them. But, oh, look, see, so when it comes to your customers,
all of those,
they're the ones that demand your top attention. So that's another thing too. What are your priorities for your business? Yeah. Like, seriously, if it is your team first before your husband and your customers, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I always, and that's the thing too, you got to remember the team's important, but at the end of the day, your customers is what's going to feed your family.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and that means for the customers on the team, so they always need to be your first priority within your business, and then you need to make sure your team has what they need to be successful. Because at the end of the day, I always tell Chloe, everybody is on the same level in Scentsy, except especially at the start of the month. Everybody starts off at the same level, so you got to work your business like it's your business.
And I think that whenever, now I lost my train of thought because he just kept on, but that's fine. But I think that when I first started Scentsy, I thought that my success, right, was determined by my team. So, and in a way it is, but also I was totally steering them in this like needy, hold my hand, jump on my back, I will carry you around like a monkey. And that's not what I wanted to create. So about a year and a half ago, when Justin really got on board with running reports and really helping me identify leaders, is I stopped dealing with negative energy in my business. And I also just stopped doing so much. Like, there's no reason that you should be individually reaching out to your frontline a zillion times a month. And that's just something I think some of y'all may be like, she doesn't understand. Well, we have a team of over 2,000 people. So we do a little bit. We understand a little bit. And I can tell you, if what you're doing right now in your business, and this goes for any business, what you're doing right now, is it sustainable if you grow your team to 5,000 people? Is it sustainable if you grow, say you don't want to grow a team, say you want to grow your customers? Is it sustainable to grow your customers to 2,000 people? Because I think too, sometimes consultants look at Cincy and they're like, oh, but I'm a certified consultant, I'm fine. Well, you still have a customer base you need to maintain, and that's going to take time away from your spouse. Like, anything you do with your business is going to take time away. So really, like, honestly, for us, communication, like we already said, and that needs to be consistent and daily. So if you have a team meeting, you need to communicate with him about it. If he gets pissed off and doesn't care, it's fine, but involve him. Because the more I didn't involve him, I think it made me like more mad, because I felt like he didn't understand, right? Because let's be serious, this business can be a rat race. There's a lot going on all the time. You know, sometimes you can't even like read all the stuff in the news tab. You just got to print it out and put it to the side. But you need to slow down now and get on track with your husband. I have one of my directors, her name's Ashton. Shout out to all my directors, they're freaking awesome. But one of them pays her husband. Her name's Ashton Cornegie, and she pays her husband a month whenever he helps her with her business. So she just pays him a little bit. So you could do out of her Cincy paycheck. So do things to make your husband feel valued. You need to make him feel good. So when he does something like get stamps from Food Lion, tell him thank you. Don't ignore him and hold your hand out like I used to and be like, thanks, bye. They want to be a little bit involved. And guess what? If they're not involved, then they're mad because you're taking time away from them, but you're not really involving them and communicating with them on how fun Cincy can be and how it is something that you can do with your husband. Or, so my husband left his job to open his own business 2 years ago. And now he's a little more free in his time just because he's a business owner and he can, you know, do stuff on his own when he wants. But he really wanted to do Cincy with me a few months ago. And I remember he was like, I really want to do this with you. And I was like, Justin, you don't have to do Cincy just because I do Cincy. So I think that's important too for a husband to know. Like, he's really good at the stuff he does, but I would never want him to just do Cincy. Now, if he would want to do that one day, whatever. But also, like, if you are that stay-at-home mom, or you're like really trying to get your husband involved, or you're a director and above, so I'm speaking to you guys, director and up, like, don't feel like your husband needs to be like these other Cincy husbands and needs to go to every event and all that. That's great. I love that. But we like to keep it real and say, you know, you just want your husband to feel special and involved in your business in whatever way that means. So like for me,
even though I'm gonna be at all this.
Yeah, he'll be. Oh yeah, definitely. Like if your husband or spouse comes to Cincy events, I really do think that's where.
Well, it just helps you get a better perspective.
Because that helps. Yeah, I guess if you want to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the first leadership that I went to, it just gives perspective on what this business can do and how it can bless your family. And so I think that if your spouse,
what made you want to go though? Because we went to Indianapolis
because it was an all-inclusive. No, the leadership was in Mexico. It was where we honeymooned.
You went to Reunion. I mean,
yeah, Reunion was a cool experience.
That was the first thing you went to. So talk about that first, because a lot of these people.
So Reunion was actually a little too overwhelming for me at first. So I mean, it's something good for your spouse to go to see the excitement of the new product launches and the new incentive trips and all that. So I mean, you can actually go to that and it's fun. And I had a great time. It was overwhelming just because it was a lot of people, and I'm not a big fan of crowds or too many of them.
He's not. He can't deal.
But it was still good. I believe if your spouse has never went to a reunion before, then they definitely need to go. But my mindset changed on the business opportunity when we went to a leadership, which was for directors and above. And I don't know, do they still do it for directors and above?
No, they've kind of changed it up. So like Reach for the Beach in Mexico in January, the incentive trip they just finished up with was a vacation. So I'll say too, the trips obviously are going to seal the deal for your spouse. Absolutely. So earn a trip. Earn one this fall. Like, it's not hard. Like, I think it's almost comical when people say, gosh, this is so much harder than the last trip. It's not. It's the same thing every trip, every time. It's the same way to earn it, so earn it.
And since he actually makes the trips to where it's a more of a consistent thing, so if you're working your business the same way you were working it nonstop, consistently, you're going to build it, and it's going to continue to help to where these trips are just going to be second nature to you. You're always going to earn them because you're working your business the same way you've always worked it. And since he understands too, because they are a big company, they make all the products, they do everything for you, they can see what consultants are struggling with, whether it's recruiting, whether it's PRB, they can see what's happening. So they'll always try to gear specials and promotions around to what you guys need to help your business out with, which is great, that you guys have that big, vehicle working for you.
Well, and I think another tip that I want to give you guys too is don't get so overwhelmed and react quickly when Cincy releases stuff. So for example, when you look in your news tab, I'm sure there's other people that feel this way as well. You can look in there and there's like 20 things and it's very overwhelming, and it makes your business feel like this. And you're stressed and you're like, I need to print this out. I need to do this. No, you need to process what's going on and then communicate with your spouse. Because obviously if you're watching this, you either have a spouse or you want to. And they're either on board a little bit or they hate your business, which, boys, it's fine. You will build a bridge and get over it. But your wife or your girlfriend, whatever, they're going to have to communicate with you. And they're going to
I say this before, sometimes Cincy for some people are going to be a hobby, and sometimes Cincy's not for everybody. Direct selling may not be good for a family, or it may be good for a family. It's just an avenue that we were able to take to help us out. But for some people, it may not work. It just depends on what season of life you're in. So don't feel like if you're watching this, you have to sell Cincy and you have to be all in it. If it's not for your family right now, you don't want to do anything, because that's what's the most important. All we're saying is based on what we've been through. Cincy's been a huge blessing for us and actually has grown our marriage, because now we're communicating better. Now we know what we need to do. But like I said, don't feel like you have to sell Cincy just to sell it. Sometimes it can just be a hobby, or you could just be a all of his technology is being really strange. So it can be just a hobby, or it can just be something where you're a customer and you're just buying Cincy. So this training, just so we can understand, this training is for Cincy consultants. Absolutely. So you're a consultant. If you're watching this, you are. But I don't want you to quit Cincy. No, absolutely not. But I'm just saying, the customers that you're talking to and stuff like that you're looking at, you just have to understand what season of life you're in. Well, yeah, and I think too, like, I don't run my business the way most people do. I'm very relaxed in the way that I dress. I don't like to do a bunch of makeup when I do my videos and do things like that, just because you gotta be real. I like to keep it real, and I think that's important. And it's like, yeah, I don't have makeup on and my hair's up, but I don't care because I know how to run a business. So don't always look to, when you're looking at how you're running your business right now, don't think that you need to have these beautifully staged pictures. And I mean, you can see behind me, my wall is like half painted. Like, you need to understand that with Cincy, I think as a woman, it's just so easy to get really jumbled. And when you're trying to earn a trip or you're in this rat race, I mentor a lot of people on, how to get their business in line. And it's like, are you running your business, or is your business running you? If your business is running you, there's a good chance that your marriage is also on the back burner. Because if your business is running you, that means every time someone texts you, you're right there. Every time you see something in the news tab, you have to be the first person to post it. Guys, slow down a little bit, because that also creates something called burnout. And do 3 things every day in your business that are just top priority. Just 3. You only need 3 things. And tell your husband those 3 things. Write them down on the dry erase board if that's what you have to do. But you can't be mad at your spouse when you're not involving them in your business. And you can't be mad when they're like, I don't understand. Yeah, they don't understand, because you're not telling them what's going on. And you need to communicate with them, especially, I mean, I hate saying this, but for advanced leaders, I think directors and above, that's the biggest burnout. And then they get mad, and then they're like, I don't get this from my sponsor. And then all these things are created by advanced leaders that, honestly, look at yourself. How is your marriage? How are you treating people? How is your life? Like, what's going on at home? What's going on every day? Because how that is in the center is going to reflect how you run a business to begin with. Like, yesterday, I told Justin, I said, we have to do this training this morning, so I really need you to build these desks so we can have our computer to sit on something. So I communicated with him instead of getting mad this morning and being like, you know what? We could have had a desk for my office. But what had happened was, as you saw it on the floor, guys, they're men. Yeah. They have the brain of a goldfish sometimes. So you really have, they do. They have a big brain, but it's like, you got to cut it on. So if there's something you need them to do in your business, like build a table, they're not going to do it unless you tell them to do it, because they don't want to do it.
So you have to communicate. So that way we
I'm
could do
glad you
our
understand
meeting.
it now.
We could do our meeting on a desk and not on the floor, because I would have been more stressed and then wouldn't have been able to do those mail-outs beside me unless they were on the floor.
Which is my desk. My desk is now being used.
So yeah, run your business. Like, run your business. I really want to leave you with that. Like, if you're not running your business in a way to where like you have it somewhat together, you know, then you just need to kind of reevaluate.
Yeah.
Talk to your spouse. If y'all have any questions, please ask on this YouTube feed, in the comment section, or any significant others. Feel free to ask questions, because I really feel like this area, indirect sales, is an area that really needs to be brought up a little bit more, a lot more, because
two is always better than one.
As you rise in the business, your time is gonna get less and less and less. So where's your time going? All right, so I think we're done.
Toodles.
Bye, guys. Go love your husband today.
And why?